And good morning, and welcome to Coach's Corner here on 93.7 FM The Mix and 93.7themix.com. I'm Bill Dixon. Alongside, we've got Mike Casey and Coach Jon Reutebuch of the Wawasee Warriors. Coach, thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Thanks a lot.
You had a real successful front end of the season. We haven't even gotten to talk very much about your season preparations and all that. Let's just generally go over your pre-conference stuff and how all that was for you this year. A big year. It's going to be a huge year for Wawasee.
Well, going into the first game against Lakeland, there's a lot to try to find out about your team and getting guys placed in the proper position. And, that first game, it's really about us. It's not about what they're doing. And with them having a first-year coach, we had no idea what they're going to do special teams-wise because you don't see that in the scrimmage and you don't have film from last year to look at. And so that's one thing you go into it. And then, you don't know what kind of offense and defense. I reached out to some other coaches and things like that to try to get a feel, but you don't know for sure until you get into the game. So we were really focused on, what we do and how we do it. And against Mishawaka-Marion, I didn't feel like the energy was there, the passion was there. And it's understandable coming out of this whole quarantine thing. I think the kids were kind of like, oh, it's really here. And so we didn't like the energy there, and so we focused on that. And Lakeland, the energy was way better. And so the kids came out and played hard, and the evidence in the score and how we played the game, I think, told a lot. Defensive played lockdown, great defense, and then the offense, we had a lot of guys contributing to the cause. But Parker Young, has really taken his level of play to the next level as from last year. Being a second year, he's just seeing things a lot better. So it was a good start to our season against Lakeland, and then we hosted West Noble at home. And, we were looking to try to establish the run, and they were looking to stop the run. And so that made things difficult for us. Felt like we could get pretty much anything we wanted through the air, and when we did, we were pretty successful. But we were still working on that running game and trying to get that, a little more balance in our offense. Defense, again, pitching a shutout. People like Don Blair rising to the top and making plays all over the field. And, it's 11 guys working together. And, they really showed their progress in pursuit to the football and being fast, playing fast. And we try to keep it simple this year, a little more simple, so they just understand their reads and they go. And it's panned out for us so far.
I would say one of the things we saw in the first 2 weeks, and we talked about it on the broadcast prior to even starting after Mishawaka-Marion scrimmage, we talked about the size. We talked about the size up front. He averaged 243 across the board for offensive line, which is it's pretty significant for any size school. I don't care if you're 5A or 1A. But that showed very well in that first game. And then, like you said, West Noble wanted to stop that first game against Lakeland. We were able to run the ball and set the pass up. Second game, West Noble said, we're going to put 9 in the box, essentially, and we're going to make you throw it. And, you wanted to establish a run, but the throwing of the ball or passing it was able to open up the run. And so it was kind of a really good mixture with the resilience of your team because, hey, it was easy to run the football against Lakeland. The next week it wasn't so easy. And so they kind of had to find a little bit of that different shift of mindset to say, all right, we're going to see teams, and I think we'll talk a little bit about Northridge from last night, but they obviously said, we're going to stop the run. We're going to see what you can do throwing the football. And as we mentioned even on the post-game show last night, there's going to be teams that are going to see that, and it's getting that run game going. And so I like seeing so many different opportunities out there offensively with your receivers, with your tailbacks. And hey, you said it very clearly, and even last night as well, the defense is flying around. I mean, you got guys making plays. There's no give up in those guys, but it's just nice to see kids just playing hard for sure.
Yeah, and that's the chemistry on the team is really good right now, and the kids are working hard, and we'll talk about Northridge, but they're working together. They like being around each other, and it shows. And distribution of the football and different guys making plays at different times. It's we're on the right path. We're not there yet. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're taking good steps to get where we want to be as a program. That Lakeland game, the offensive line, defensive line, that's a big difference from last year. We have more guys. We have guys that have some size, but they still got to learn their craft. We had sophomores that started last year, and now they're juniors. They got to take it to the next level, and we got some seniors back that we lost before the season even started last year. In Justin Castro and Hagen Slusher, and we got them back. And so what that enables us to do is have some depth. We can have some guys playing offensive line, some different guys playing defensive line, and, we have some crossovers. So, at different times, you're going to have situations where injuries or, our whole COVID situation where you're not going to have everybody on board. But for the most part, it's enabled us to really focus on the offensive line and the defensive line, and that's paid dividends for us in the first two games.
Your offense utilizes the pass a lot more than, let's say, your average high school offense might utilize the pass. Talk about the difference in preparing your team. Of course, you're using the assets you have. I understand that. But it's got to be very different for a coach, particularly at the high school level, to be preparing this kind of pass-oriented offense as opposed to, the old South Bend St. Joe or something like that, just pound away, pound away, pound away.
Well, we would like to be an even distribution of pass and run. Sometimes teams do something schematically that changes what you try to attack. Sometimes there's advantages that you want to go after. So I don't think it's an aim for us to be a pass-oriented, but we like to be multiple formation and be able to do a lot of things. So if we're able to run the football and run it effectively, we're going to run the football. And if we're able to find holes in their secondary and pass, that's what we're going to do. The great thing about this team is we have weapons on both ends. Once we get this offensive line up and going, and we got some good skill guys behind him. Nathan Larson, Cam Salazar, Dom Blair. There's some good guys that can run the football hard, and when we get those holes opened up, that we're going to do that. And then Parker Young's a pretty good runner too. As far as the passing game, that's probably the hardest thing for high school kids to figure out is how to defend the pass and their zones and man coverage and things like that. And so, again, we have some pretty good skill guys out there that we want to get them the ball in space. And so if that's what's our opportunity and with Parker's play, that sometimes that's the best option for us. So,
but that's got to be a lot more difficult to prepare, doesn't it? Just not just prepare week to week, but in general to prepare, because the passing game is I guess newer to them.
Not these guys.
No, okay.
No, not these guys. Not this day and age. Maybe back in our day. In our day, it was 2 yards in a cloud of
You're
dust.
You're referring to your days, right?
No, I think.
No, we ran the football a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't it?
Dawson, we ran it. Dive check, sweep
Dive
check.
check, sweep check. Okay, so
we ran the rock, which in my day was the rock.
Oh yeah. So. Not for these guys. They enjoy it, and it's with the ball in the air. Fans enjoy it too because they can see what's going on and things. But I'll be honest with you, if we can pound the rock and get 4 or 5 yards a clip, we'll stick with that. And it just, again, it depends on scheme and it depends on what we're having success with, because ultimately, offensively, you got to move the chains and you got to get first downs and you got to score the football. And so whatever gets us there, that's what we're going to do. But the kids, I think the kids have a good handle on what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. And, we didn't have our whole off season. We didn't have a whole summer to work on, routes and technique and fundamental. We had July. Mm-hmm. And so right now, it's early still in the season, and it's hard to get 16, 17, 18-year-old kids to understand that, we're not there yet. This is still work in progress. It's not where we start, it's where we end. And so we just got to keep plugging away and getting better and better. And, after the Lakeland game, after the West Noble game, keep reminding them it gets tougher each game. This is the NLC, and you don't have easy games anywhere. And so you got to come prepared to play each week and get better and keep climbing that ladder each week.
To your point, Coach, timing. Really, you talk about offensive, you talk about running or throwing the ball, it's timing. And you're talking about the timing of the zone read, whether it's inside zone, outside zone. It's the timing of the routes. It's the timing of putting the ball in the air. Looked really good first 2 games. Obviously, picking up some good chunks. You're talking about guys just trying to figure out what it looks like. When you take away part of your season, your off season, one, individuals are chomping at the bit, getting excited about getting a chance to play. But 2, there's still that fundamental. The fundamentals are what's going to help drive and keep you going. And so the timing is what I think we've seen even from week 1 all the way to week 3. There's just, once that timing just kind of gets that much better, I think there's a lot of opportunities. You talk about the tailback position. You talk about the receiver position. We've got a lot of skilled players and a line that can provide opportunity for that ball to get in the air or to run it. I'm just excited to see what, as we progress throughout this, and we'll talk about Concord later. We'll talk about Northridge here shortly. But just progressing to see what that looks like from even week 1, week 2, week 3, down you get to week 10, and you're going into the playoffs as well. So.
Yep.
Your pre-conference season showed some NECC schools. NECC brings a different kind of football to us. Talk about the change now going from that pre-conference season into the conference season.
Well, and yeah, a lot of teams, they schedule their pre-conference games as, something to help prepare them for the season. So I'll even go back to Mishawaka-Marion scrimmage. We love scrimmaging Marion because it's a quality program. It really gives us an idea where are we at this point in time. And sometimes it's, we gotta get busy. We got a lot of work to do, or we need to. In this last situation, the case was we got to bring a little more passion to what we're doing and enjoy flying around and having fun on the football field. And so, you try to take those lessons and get a little better each week. And so those 2 non-conference games are so important. You got to learn something about your team. You pound against each other week in and week out in practice. And, you got an idea, but you really don't know until you get into those games. And sometimes somebody emerges as, they look good in practice, but dang, they look really good in a game. And I'll pick one kid out, Don Blair. In practice he makes plays and everything, but we got in the game at Lakeland and even West Noble, he's all over the place. And so what we're seeing in practice is actually carrying to the field. Parker Young at the quarterback position, Cam Salazar at receiver and all the different places, or Justin Castro in the line. You learn a lot about your team in that scrimmage in the first 2 games of where you're at, where you want to go, and what is going to be the personality of that team. And so those are vital. And Lakeland and West Noble are bigger NECC teams. Mm-hmm. They're schools that are not that far off from our school enrollment, and so we like to test ourselves with them, and we feel like that helps us get ready for our conference season, and then we just got to keep picking it up.
Your Wawasee Warriors preparing to play the Concord Minutemen next week. We'll talk about that later on, and talk about the game against Northridge last night here in just a few moments. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Mike Casey and Jon Reutebuch along with me, Bill Dixon, here to talk some football. Last night, Coach, we took on the Northridge Raiders here at home.
Yes, Northridge, going into the game, they had some issues with the COVID and having games postponed and canceled, and so they their first game was last week against South Bend St. Joe, and on that end of the thing, they only have 1 game in where we had 2 games, but on the other side of it is, we only have 1 game film to go on. And, quality of game film sometimes it varies, and there's some plays that started and we have no idea what they were doing in that play or how they did it. But we know playing Tom Wagaman teams that they're going to be solid defensively and they're going to be hard-nosed and they're going to run the football. And so we knew going in that's what they're going to be. And with every NLC team, they're going to be solid in special teams. They're going to be fundamentally sound. And so going in, we could see their quarterback very quick. Somebody we got to contain. They have a big back in Dominic Crowder, who is a nightmare for anybody trying to tackle him. He's the size of one of our defensive linemen, 5'11", 230, I believe, is what he was listed at. And then they have a boomstick of a kicker who put one against St. Joe through the uprights on the kickoff. So he's quite a weapon for them. So those are a couple things we observed. And then they're always just fundamentally sound. They got a great coaching staff up there, and Tom's been there long enough now that it's like any program that's going to be successful. They got a great Pee Wee program. They got a solid middle school program, and that feeds into their high school program. And last year, the freshmen and their JV were undefeated in the conference. So we knew that they were probably going to be pretty solid. Now, how we approach that with our kids is, hey, first 2 games, looking good. Things are going well. Now we got to step up our game. This is our first big test of an NLC opponent that we know is going to be solid, and so this is an opportunity for us to come out and show what we can do and get after it, and let everybody know that Wawasee is for real this year, and we're going to be a team that's not going to be an easy out.
So just to give a recap and review of what the game last night was 7-0 in the second quarter late. The final score was 20-0 Northridge on the victory side of that. 7-0 going into that halftime, and kind of a nice shoulder fake, beat us deep, about 30 seconds left. So you even mentioned that in the report of the on the radio and also in the newspaper that was a huge blow, huge momentum builder for Northridge, because at that time, if you go in 7-0, it's a different ball game because it's a one-score game. So it was 14-0, and then they scored late. The thing that I saw from last night's game that I was most impressed by was the resiliency. There was times on offense that we didn't do as well as we had done in the past, but a lot of those guys playing on the defense were playing on the offense, and they kind of bowed their neck, as we like to say at times, in the defensive end. Turnovers on downs. I mean, I think it was probably, I'm going to say 3 or 4 times that we stopped them at 4th down. A couple of them were 4th and shorts.
Huge.
Turnovers, a big hit down by the end zone. We were able to turn the ball over to change and switch field position. So the key is they put the ball on the turf too. Sometimes that ball bounced back to them a few times more than us. But the one thing, again, I go back to is our kids are playing hard. It's not, we're down 7-0 and things start to, because they came out and moved the ball pretty effectively their first few drives. But our defense, I know you said we had a few guys that we didn't have last night, but we had some guys from last year that are getting their feet wet, one might say, on the defensive end and also on the offensive end. I love the way they're flying around, and I love the way that they didn't back down from, because like you said, Tom's going to have a great defense, and he's going to run the ball. And when your tailback is 230 and your quarterback's 5'7", 140, literally you have an extra offensive lineman in the backfield, and they're just running an ISO with one guy behind him. But the guys stayed resilient. They kept playing hard. They kept tackling. And almost in that point of the game where we had the ball, I think it was down to about let's say 23, maybe even in the 19. It was in that almost to the red zone. There was that momentum. You could tell that just the energy was about to shift, and if we could have picked up that first down, we turned it over on downs there. We could have picked that up. I mean, the game. I mean, at that time it was 14-0, and but you like you say, you win some, you lose some, but you got to find those wins on offense and defense as we progress and move forward to Concord. So. All in all, I saw a lot of really good things from our kids in that warrior grit. We talk about it all the time on the radio. We talk about it here, too. You talk about it to your team. I saw a lot of that. I'm just so excited to see what that looks like when we're on the other end of that, beating that team like a Northridge 20-0, and I'm sure that's in our near future.
Right. That is definitely where we want to be. And, going into this game, my biggest fear was distraction. I knew what we had. I knew what they had. I told the kids, this is going to be a heavyweight fight. This is going to be a 4 quarters game. We were able to overwhelm our first 2 opponents and kind of dictate what we wanted to do. I said, this game is not going to be like that. This is going to be 4 quarters, solid football. They're not going to give up. We're not going to give up. And, you got to fight till the end. And I believe they did that. I think the kids were fighting all the way through. And I tell you what, you look at every football game that is, somewhat close and it's not a blowout. There's about 5 plays you can look at that can make a difference in a game. And so, we just missed on 3 that I could say were legitimate opportunities on long passes that, had we scored one of those, it's a different attitude. It's a different kind of game, 14-7. And so, that first half, we couldn't get things going offensively. You take one step forward and two steps back, and we were starting drives off with a bad snap or a fumbled handoff or a penalty or a loss of yardage, and so we were behind the sticks, and we were really struggling offensively. But defensively, we were doing a great job. And going into halftime, if we were down 7-0 after that first half, I would have taken it. Unfortunately, we got some guys on the field that don't have a lot of varsity experience, and even though he's a senior, he has not played varsity football at all up until this year. And unfortunately, understanding situations, and kid made a double move, and with just very little time going into halftime, we give up a touchdown, and right there. That was a big momentum thing for Northridge, and that was one of the things that I had to try to turn around at halftime. Is hey, we're still in this. We're just one score away. It's a new ball game. Let's come out and this can be a part of a great comeback and those kind of things. Those are the things you talk about at halftime and trying to fix some of the things that we weren't doing well. So.
But I would say to that, message sent, message received, because even in the third quarter, our guys played. Again, and when you think of the 14-0 going into half, they scored a late touchdown in the fourth quarter to go up 20-0 for the victory. But our kids were resilient. And I felt like, and Bill and I mentioned this on the radio, I feel like if we had a little bit more time, you can almost see that our tides were turning. But again, we didn't pick up that fourth down, and we were short on that. We're getting turnovers. There's so many things that you can, if you talk about the timing, you piece it together, you put those things together, different result. Now, you don't want a hypothetical, what about this, that, and the other thing? We know that. We've been in coaching long enough. We understand the game. But still, there's some good things right there that you can build upon, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like in the weeks to come.
Well, I can point to two plays. One of them, the big hit down after they make a big pass play, not giving up on the play, still pursuing, still trying to make the tackle and knocking the ball out at, really, it was the half-yard line. And the back of the ball was almost touching the white line, and so that saved a touchdown. And we were able to punt the ball away, and that's that resiliency, the warrior grit, that not giving up on a play. I mean, it would be real easy to just pull off and let that kid score, and we didn't do that. And so that's the kind of things we're looking for. Offensively, we were able to move the ball in the second half. We just weren't able to complete drives, and that's something that we got to get to that point of completing drives. And like I said before, we just missed on a couple of shots at touchdowns, and we hit one of those. It's a different game. And Mike mentioned the last score. I call that a fatigue touchdown. I think we were just gassed at that point. We got several guys going both ways, and we're trying to get less and less of that, and trying to find places where they can recoup during the game and provide some more depth. But all in all, I think my fear of us being distracted by and we're going to virtual, and we had e-learning on Friday, and that typically is not a good situation for our football team, just out of routine. And so that was my fear, and I think we answered that. I think we came out ready to play. We just have to do a better job of executing. A few things here and there. We're not overhauling everything and throwing everything out. It's just a matter of getting better at what we do, and realizing, mention the timing of plays, when you throw the ball, and how you're spacing in your routes, and the offensive line coming off the double team and getting to the linebacker. I mean, it's huge play. It goes from, a 1 yard gain or a 2 yard loss to all of a sudden you're gaining 5 or 6 yards. And so we just got to keep working hard at what we're doing and getting better at what we do.
It really is a question, wouldn't you say, Coach, of lining up everything in every play so that all the pieces work right. If you have, you've got 11 players out there, you've got at least 11 pieces to every play. And there were an awful lot of plays, it seemed like last night, where 8 or 9 pieces of the 11 were just absolutely doing great. But that one piece that we were missing on a particular play or two made the difference.
Absolutely. That's a really good observation, and that's exactly what it is. I always think defense is a lot easier than offense. And the reason I say that is defense, you look at what's going on and you just react. And, you can have a couple guys on defense, bail you out of other guys being in a bad position or not doing what they're supposed to do on a play just by their superior play. On offense, it's like a choreographed dance. Mm-hmm. If you don't have 11 guys on the same page, and like you just said, we could have 9 guys doing a great job, but that 1 or 2 guys that miss that block or miss that hole or whatever it is, that can screw it up. And that's where we got to get to being more effective of everybody doing their job at the same time on that play. And so I always feel like offense is a little harder because we all have to be, more than any other time, moving in unison, 11 guys. And that's what makes this football game great. It takes 11 guys, and we got to do our job. And so that's something we'll keep working on.
And it's all 11 guys. The layman looking at the game, like someone like me looking at the game, you don't necessarily see the error that caused the problem. It can be something that's completely the other side of where the ball ended up that caused the entire shift that's where the problem came from.
Yeah, and you could have it both ways. You could have a great play, but we didn't run it right. Mm-hmm. It just happened to work out. Either that kid made a superior play, athletically, or they did something that put them out of position, and so you have success with that, even though it wasn't the play that we were supposed to run. And then on vice versa, we could run it well, but they made a great play and stopped it. So yeah, that can happen. And same thing on offense and defense, or on defense as it is on offense. You can have a couple guys make you look better or cover up something that you weren't doing, but eventually they're going to find that spot. And that's kind of what happened right before halftime. They found that one spot, inexperience, and he'll get better. Mm-hmm. He'll learn from that. That's that experience component that, he hasn't had those games and going through that situation. And, you can tell them what they're supposed to do and what they're supposed to be thinking about. But, again, we're talking about 16, 17-year-old kids that they have to have that experience and understanding situations. And so we'll get there. It's not where we start. It's where we end.
Coach Jon Reutebuch talking about last night's ball game with Northridge. We'll be back with more. We'll talk some middle school football in a moment here on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 93.7themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 93.7themix.com. Coach Jon Reutebuch with us, and he's brought some special guests for today's program. Coach?
Good morning. We have with us today Joe Salazar, who is our 8th grade head coach, and Nathan Lambert, who is our 7th grade head coach. And one of the things that I would like to do this year is shed some light on our feeder programs, because they're very important in building a program, a successful program. And so I brought these guys in today to talk a little bit about their teams and what's going on with them. And we're going to start with Joe Salazar first, our 8th grade head coach. Joe, tell us about your staff and your numbers at the 8th grade level.
Well, thanks, Coach. Our numbers at this time are around 22 players. My staff consists of Coach Dustin Stutzman, O-line, D-line coach. Defensive coordinator is Ben Garden, and offense coordinator is myself.
Okay, good. Going into our season this year, I know we've had to deal with a lot of COVID issues and things like that, precautions and protocols and things like that. Talk a little bit about that and how that's going, and maybe how that created some obstacles in starting your season.
Well, it has added some extra things to our season. What the checklist, things we have to go through every day to make sure that kids are available to practice and be able to play the games. It's a lot of extra things we have to do, cleaning, making sure kids wear masks. It's a lot of extra supervision and work we have to do.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't find out till later on, hey, this kid's not going to be at practice or this kid's not going to be available, and that can throw you for a loop. At this point in time, how many games have you played this year so far?
We've completed 3 games so far.
And kind of take us through each one of those games, maybe the result and where your team was at each point and where you're going.
First game was we had played Edgewood. We had a slow start just because this COVID.
Yep.
Practices, equipment. It was just not much time to prepare, and that's really what it looked like when we had our first game. The result was 28-0 in favor of Edgewood, and it's not something I like, but that's something we had to deal with. And as coaches, we looked at our team, and our job is just to make sure each week we keep getting better.
Yep.
That's the main thing we got to look at, keep getting better, start knowing the kids, putting them in the right positions. And we also like to watch tape and tape the games as well, so we can also explain and show what things are going on that we need to fix.
So transitioning from that Edgewood game and being able to maybe watch a little film and see what you got going, because, I coached middle school for a while, and I understand, that very beginning moves really fast, and you feel like I wish we had a couple more weeks to get them ready. And sometimes, the start of school, or in this case, COVID-19 and different things are obstacles. And so you don't feel like you get things rolling until about the third or fourth game. And so, but you mentioned something that's very important, is getting them those experiences and those teaching moments, and watching film is a great tool. And, what you go over in practice and emphasize, hey, we didn't tackle well. We're going to work on tackling this week, or we didn't execute this play well. We're going to work on the proper execution this play. So take us from Edgewood, what you learned from that, into your next game, which was?
Next game we played was West Noble.
West Noble.
The score was 20-8. We actually put some points up on the board. One of the things that we improved on, and we are still improving on, is our blocking and our tackling. That's one big thing that hurt us badly the first game. But as a result, like we said, our goal is to keep getting better. We keep putting goals for the kids to make sure we push them, and we hold them accountable if they don't. So that's one thing that's been working.
Yeah.
So as we move on from that game to our third game, which was Fairfield, we ended up putting points on the board, starting to know our personnel a little bit, our strengths and weaknesses. We actually ended up winning 33-22.
Wow. That's major progress, going from, not being able to score to getting a score on the board, and then the explosion in the third game. So things are starting to come together, and kids are understanding what they're supposed to do on offense and then defense. You also had the same progress, get them up 28-20, and then what did they score in the Fairfield?
22.
22?
One of those was, as things were going well, we decided to try to get a lot of our newer players in, and they just decided to move down the field a little bit. And hey, that's one of those that we don't want to give up points, but
you're trying to get kids experience. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I
I totally understand that, and I've been in those situations before. You try to get some kids on the field, and the other team is trying to score, and sometimes it's not a good matchup situation. Well, it sounds like things are progressing really well for the 8th grade team, and sometimes logistics and outside influences don't lend to the greatest transition, but in 3 games, I'd say you guys are doing a pretty good job. So from here on out, let's take a look at your schedule and what you got coming up. What teams you're playing and what you're looking for.
Well, this upcoming week we play a new school we haven't played before, Osceola Grace. We're just like we have each week. We're making adjustments, moving a couple kids around, seeing how things work out, and hopefully again this week we'll have a nice little lead and we can get more people more experience and keep going, moving up.
And who do you have left on your schedule after Osceola Grace? So we got Plymouth,
Lakeview,
Bremen,
Lakeview. I think.
Yeah, we have 3 conference.
Yep.
3 conference
that's
games
the last
left.
ones remaining.
Okay.
Tournament.
All right. Well, very good, Coach. Keep up the good work, and it sounds like the kids are progressing and starting to figure things out. Blocking and tackling. It doesn't get any more basic than that, and that's on every level. That's NFL, college, high school. We got to continue those fundamentals, and that's going to help us build a good program. Nathan, why don't you come on up and let's talk about your team. Nathan's the head coach of the 7th grade football team, and why don't you go ahead and talk about your staff members and your numbers at the 7th grade level?
Yeah, so we have a total of 19 kids on the team that is registered. Now that varies day to day. We've had kind of got hit by the COVID bug pretty hard early. Luckily, we're getting a lot of those guys back, so that's the cool thing for us as coaches. So my coaching staff is me, and I call offensive. I'm the OC as well, and then I have Ben Bile that calls all of our defense, and then I have Burkhart, which he's kind of our strength and conditioning coach. He also does a lot of good things with positions. So, he's really good with the kids. He coaches basketball and that, so he pushes the kids pretty hard in conditioning. So that's the good thing for us. And
he's a PE teacher at Syracuse Elementary, so that helps a little bit too.
Yeah, that helps quite a bit. So for me to have him on the staff and be able to hey, I need last game we had 12 guys that were able to play, so our conditioning has to be really high.
Wow.
And so to be able to say, hey, I need these guys to last the whole game, and he just takes that over and runs with it.
Right. Numbers definitely something that we're battling right now, and I don't think it's just a Wawasee issue. It's all over.
Yeah.
I know in our high school schedule we got teams that are canceling their freshman schedule or morphing their freshmen into the JV, and there's schools that they've had success and they're still dealing with some numbers issues. So, okay. Are there any other obstacles? We talked to Joe about the COVID-19. Are there some other things that have kind of limited your progress here in the beginning of the season?
Yeah, so we've had a rough go at the beginning of the season just from the equipment standpoint. And then the other thing is, and this is the major thing, is we actually moved all of our practices from Milford to Wawasee Middle so that we can, share resources with the 8th grade and really kind of brings our program together so that,
Absolutely.
As coaches we can help out each other in that, which is a great thing. But logistically, it's been a little bit of a nightmare. We're still getting there a little bit. We still have all of our equipment at Milford, and we're trying to get some of it transferred over. So the back of my truck kind of looks like a impromptu locker room. So
like you're making a trip to play it against sports to try to make some money, right?
Oh yeah, every time. So so that's been kind of the rough things. Unlike the 8th grade, we've only had one game. So we played Fairfield. We lost a really close heartbreaker, 18-12. Like I said, we only had 12 kids. And there was times we did things really well, and for seeing just 12 kids on the field, I'm thinking, hey, yeah, if we get out early, we can win this game. But, towards the end of the game, it's going to be rough. And, these kids really persevered. I was really proud of them. We actually had a shot to win it at the end of the game. Unfortunately, a little bit of an underthrown ball, tipped ball, and Fairfield's best player grabbed it and then fell with it. But, it doesn't go your way all the time. And, hopefully, with these kids coming back from COVID, we should have a full, 16 to 18 man roster, which is really going to help us, moving forward.
Absolutely. I it's been a lot of years since I had one or two guys on the sideline with me. It was back in the days of the combined, before the combined teams, when we had Milford team and a Wawasee Middle team, and the Milford team was combined 7th and 8th grade, and there were a couple of those times when we had 13 kids, and so that's tough. That's tough on your kids going both ways, playing the whole game and not having any depth. And but it sounds like you guys are really getting them going, and that first game is a testament to that. And even though it wasn't a win on the scoreboard, it's a win as far as kids playing hard and toughing it out and having that warrior grit that we're preaching to the high school. And so that's good stuff. I know that Riddell and some of the equipment distributors, we've had our own issues with getting some things on time and everything. And so, with our whole situation nationally, that kind of puts a bind on, having your helmets on time. I think Joe mentioned earlier when we were talking, they got their helmets game day. And
Yeah.
In your situation, you had a game canceled and another game hopefully going to be rescheduled.
Hopefully, yeah.
Because of equipment issues. So, okay. So you do not play Elkhart or
Yeah. So
Osceola Christian, right?
we do not. So they have a combined 7th and 8th grade team. So, just for the safety of our kids, we have a little bit smaller,
Sure.
Kids in 7th grade. They don't quite have that growth spurt yet. So we don't play them. We have 3 games left. We play Plymouth, Bremen, and Lakeview. Hopefully Edgewood if that game gets rescheduled.
Yeah.
And then we go right into the championship. So I believe we have 6 or 7 weeks left at this point. So
Man.
I'm it's flying by.
Yeah,
let me tell you.
it does. It does. It's from my standpoint, here we are getting ready for week 4. And, going into the season, there's a lot of doubts that we were going to be able to play football. So every day's a blessing. Every game you get to play and every practice you get is a blessing. And so we're so thankful for that. And we're thankful for you guys. The 7th grade and 8th grade are going to be key, building those building blocks, basics in blocking, tackling, warrior grit, what it takes to be successful on a Friday night. And that's where we're trying to get these kids. So I personally want to thank you guys and all the work you put in and your staff puts in. It's not an easy job coaching middle school. We all were a little squirrely in middle school, and getting those guys on the same page and committing to the time and effort it takes is not easy. So, again, appreciate what you're doing down there, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Coach, and thanks for bringing some guests along. This is the Coach Jon Reutebuch Coach's Corner, and we'll be back with more talking about this week's opponent, Concord, here on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. I'm Bill Dixon alongside the head football coach of the Wabasee Warriors, Coach Jon Reutebuch. Coach, this week, for the first time, we're on the bus in the Northern Lakes Conference, headed to Concord to take on the Minutemen. That's always a tough assignment for any football team headed into Concord.
It is. Concord, we haven't got any film yet on them. We're waiting on that this morning. But what we do know about Concord is they're, again, another NLC team that's going to be well coached in all 3 aspects of the game, offense, defense, and special teams. They are usually pretty athletic, able to bring speed to the table, and they have some big linemen. Well aware, Mike Casey's brother Matt is a father of a player on Concord's team, and I believe he is 6'5", about 360. He is a large individual, and right next to him, he's got a smaller guy in size as far as weight, but taller, 6'7", 325, I think, and so they have some big boys on the offensive line, and I know they have some good athletes, and it's going to bring every game brings you different challenges and what you're looking at. And so we're going to have to look at what they're doing and try to exploit that to the best of our ability.
First thing is to mentally and physically work out last night's game, of course. And I know you've got a regimen to get that done.
Yes, we come in on Saturdays, and each coach picks out a set amount of plays. I'm not a big believer in bringing them in there and watching video for an hour. Our kids can't pay attention and that long. And so we bring them in, bumps and bruises on Saturday. That's what we call it. You got to work out the lactic acid and the soreness and all those things so the kids recover from, a game of hitting. And we utilize different things. We use yoga. We use some running, conditioning, and we also use the pool. And that helps kids not have the pressure on their knees and their joints and still getting that cardiovascular exercise and working those muscles again. So that's what we typically do on a Saturday. And then we also watch, around 10 to 15 plays on offense, defense, and special teams looking at those things that we can fix and things that, pointing out those positive plays where somebody makes a great effort. Hey, this is what it's going to take. Pointing out that, hey, if we would have got this block or if we would have done this, this is what this play could be. Trying to get them a visual. And then each coach also sends out to their individual players when they have more time to look at film and correct some things that we were working on. So that's typically how it works on a Saturday morning. Then we also get out film to them so they can start watching the next team. Mondays are mental Mondays, and we go through physically on the field. This is what formations they use. This is what they'd like to do in all three phases of the game. And then they get a scouting report that, lists every player, their height and weight, and all those things. So that's pretty typical of any program. That's kind of how most programs do it, at least the programs I've been around. And, everybody from Tom Wagaman was here at Wawasee and moved on to Northridge. I've seen other coaches. I've been around other head coaches, a lot of them over the years. That's pretty typical.
So a lot of just a light workout and more of the mental part of the game through Monday. And then starting on Tuesday, back into some more heavy preparation.
Tuesday and Wednesday are days where we really can actually get a good look, and those are full pad, full contact days of where we have to see how it looks against this defense and what they bring to the table, and same thing what they do on offense and how that's going to look to us, and getting those muscle memory, mental memory of what we're looking at and what we're trying to stop. And so Tuesday and Wednesday are those days. And then Thursday is pregame. And pregame is kind of just the dress rehearsal, going through, making sure that we understand what we're supposed to do and where we're supposed to be and who we're looking for, who we're trying to stop. And then on the other side of the ball, what we're trying to take advantage of. And then special teams, which is very important. That gives us a chance to run through all the special teams. We only do one or two each day, usually one at a time. And so Thursday enables us to run through all those too, and making sure that they're personneled and everybody understands what we're trying to accomplish.
We're on the road this week, and in conference on the road. Talk about how being on the road changes things for you. Not necessarily in practice, of course, but just in general.
Well, there's the logistics, the loading of the bus, and you can only get there at a certain time. Our buses aren't available till 4:30 because they're running routes, and so you don't have as much time pregame to get ready. And so we got to be more efficient in what we're doing and getting up there and getting our kids physically prepared. Brady Nyland does a great job strength and conditioning with our kids, not only in the weight room, but also getting them ready for games. And we do a pregame lift, and we do some stretches and exercises to get them all limbered up and ready to go and warmed up so they can go out and perform at peak performance. And so when you go on the road, you got all that. You got your managers are packing up your equipment, the kids are throwing their equipment on a bus, and then we have the seating charts in the bus and trying to spacing kids out because of COVID and the dangers that brings. And so it's just the logistics of it. And then once you get there, it's just like anything else.
Sure. This week we'll be headed to Concord. Concord, historically, a very tough football team, pretty hard-nosed group up there at Concord. You talked about the fact they've got size on the offensive line. From the layman's perspective, what should we expect to see if we travel to Concord to see this game?
Well, Concord and Plymouth typically over the years have been conference champions. I don't have the statistics on me right now, but they're usually one of the, between those two, they've won the majority of the conference championships in the last 15 years. So that's the kind of program we're facing. And so without, having their personnel yet and watching film, we know what we're going to be facing in as far as their program goes. And then also the other aspect, you're on their home field. It's a home game for them, and that is also something that teams play. Maybe I want to say harder at home, but to go into somebody else's home field and get a win is a tough accomplishment in a tough conference, and so that is always the challenge.
You had man back last night. Your tight end was back last night after missing the week before. Always important to have that. Well, Concord bringing the big line. It's going to be good to have that extra man available.
Yeah, we got a couple guys back last night. They're not in game shape yet, and with our difficulty in getting first downs and moving the ball on offense, they had to play a lot on defense, and they get tired, and neither one of them had played in about a month, and so unfortunately, on the unfortunate side, we asked a lot of them, and that was hard for them. But on the fortunate side, we got these guys back in and rotating through, and that's going to provide even more depth. We were without our starting linebacker and punter, Don Blair, last night, but he will be back this next week, and so looking forward to getting him back in there. And hopefully going into Concord game with everybody on board. But, this day and age, you never know. You got to be ready, and it's next man up. And we're not going to make excuses. We didn't have this guy or we didn't have that guy. It's a team game, and everybody knows their role. And when we have an injury or somebody's got to be pulled out, the next guy's got to be ready. And I made that point the very first game. We had a sophomore that had to play. We had another kid as a senior had not played varsity too much, and he had to go both ways. And so I made that emphasis in the first game. Hey, you got to be ready. You never know when your name's going to be called. And, I think the kids understand that, and they've done a pretty good job of filling in. We haven't had the full complement of players each game, but for the most part, we've been pretty lucky as far as having most of our guys there. But each kid is pivotal and important, and losing somebody for a game, makes it extra difficult. And what you're
but
trying to do.
sometimes that adds to the drive and the grit and the determination of a team too. And if there's anything your team has got, it's drive, grit, and determination. You've got excellent chemistry and a really good work ethics, not the attitude toward the game.
Yeah, and that's something that we've worked on from day one is, it's hard work. It's a commitment, and it's also a game. You want to have fun, and you want to work hard, and if you do those things, you'll have success. And in this fast food world, it's not instant. It takes time and effort, and getting our kids in the weight room and in not only during season but in off season, and understanding the game and how we go about things. You can't assume kids know. They don't. And so we got to teach them everything from the fundamentals of the game and also how you carry yourself in life and being on time and being held accountable and doing your due diligence as far as study of film and getting better as an athlete in the weight room. Those are all very important things.
And we're still very early in the year, and you're still teaching skill type things, I would imagine, as well as preparation for the Concord Minutemen.
Absolutely. And fundamentals never stop. I mean, that's such a key part of the game. And it sounds cliche, but it is. I mean, hey, all the way up to the NFL college level, they're working fundamentals. You can't do enough of that. And you're trying to build that memory, that muscle memory, that how you go about things. And that continues throughout the season.
You continue to develop your team. You noted that there were some guys that were out and are back. Health-wise, how's your team overall? Are you in decent shape or not?
We will be. We will be this week. Like I said, we had a couple guys out. We got them back in. They played last night, played quite a bit. Came out of the game last night with nothing more than bumps and bruises, so that's a positive. And like I said, Dom will be back this next week, so that's going to help. And barring anything going on this week or somebody coming in today, we look pretty good health-wise, and that's encouraging. And my biggest challenge as the head coach and our other assistant coaches is, one, pointing out the positives and the things we need to work on from Northridge, and then focusing on Concord and what we want to do there and trying to just get better. It presents us another opportunity. We haven't beaten Concord in a long time. And, what a huge, opportunity that would be to go out there and get a win. Concord lost 14-6 last night to Northwood, which we know is a good program too. We lost last night. So which team, does a better job of rebounding from that loss? That's who's going to come out the victor. And so that's what we got to focus on. One challenge we do have this week is it's a Labor Day weekend, and everybody enjoys that vacation. But we're still going to practice in the afternoon, trying to keep the routine. We can't take a day off. We only get 4 days to prepare for a game, so we're still going to do our mental Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday we're going to get after it, and Thursday, as I often say, and the coaches laugh, the hay's in the barn, and now it's time to go ahead and execute.
So your Wabasee Warriors on the road this coming Friday night, taking on the Concord Minutemen at Concord. We'd rather have you at Concord to see this football game, but if you can't be there, be by the radio or the computer, as Mike Casey and I have the ball game for you here on 93.7 FM The Mix, as well as CPG-TV and 937themix.com. We'll come on the air at 6:30 Friday night. Kickoff will be at 7 o'clock. Coach Jon Reutebuch, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks a lot,
This
Bill.
is Coach Jon Reutebuch's Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com.